9 classes, 9 very different experiences. And coming from Guild Wars 2, honestly, I was a bit lost, dude. Like,
thing makes fucking sense.
But after some research and some experience playing these classes, I've been able to understand the choices a hell of a lot better, and how honestly I can relate it to you, because that's how I made it make sense for me. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more terrible content. Before I break these down, let me explain, because it honestly took me a minute from all of my time playing Guild Wars 2. Class choice in Tyria is very, very forgiving. I mean, you could swap weapons, you could adjust builds, different elite specs on the fly. You never really are locked in. In WoW TBC, it's not that at all. Your class is your identity for the entire game. Rerolling can be very time consuming, and then some specs are just flat out not viable for certain content. Suck it, Ret Paladins, I say in jest. And the class fantasy here is way more defined than anything that Guild Wars 2 has. So I'm not gonna sit here and preach about like what's the best class for endgame content. Now, I'm just gonna translate this into a language that you can understand and it makes sense to you. And also make sure to stay to the end to see which class I decided to main. I did pick one from my first playthrough, TBC. Hang in there. All right, so quick explanation, because you do have to understand. In Guild Wars 2, you pick a profession. It has lots of flexibility from there. In TBC, you pick a class and a specialization. Think of the specs as locked in elite specializations that you can't swap on the go. It's really kind of a pain in the neck. You get a total of 3 specs per class, and honestly, what they do completely feels different between the 3. A protection warrior and a fury warrior share the same name, kind of, but then have drastically different roles. Even further, classes are race locked, and even some of the classes were faction locked, up until Burning Crusade, where they actually allowed the Horde to have Paladins and the Alliance to have Shaman. That's not to mention that WoW has the holy triad of MMOs as tank, healer, and DPS. It's more things to consider than a box full of fluffy kittens, so let's hit these classes. So simply put, Unga Bunga. And I'm 100% serious. Unga Bunga, that's the warrior. Straight up is what you would expect as a melee enjoyer. In a classic older MMO, I mean, what did you expect? I mean, the main resource is using rage as a builder spender fashion. And of course, I had to go orc for this. I mean, it's orc warrior. That's about as canon as it comes. Now, the warrior seems to be heavily focused on attack timing and basic attack damage. While balancing the use of rage as your primary resource, you gain rage when you strike enemies and then when they strike you. Researching further, warriors have the capabilities of stance dancing, going into berserker stance to deal more damage and take more damage, defensive stance for more tanking, and it really can fit a number of different playstyles, but honestly, between those stances and then how you were generating the rage and how you're using them is where the class really shines. The specializations that they have focus on either a 2-handed weapon DPS through the arms spec, 2 one-handed weapons through the fury as a DPS, and of course protection as a tank. As a Guild Wars 2 player, this was straight up a warrior for me. I mean, it's really not that surprising, although I will admit it did feel really good when my orc got a shield and then blocked a bunch of attacks back to back to back. I mean, it was really satisfying. I know you can block attacks in Guild Wars 2, but it's kind of like, it's just a temporary bubble for warriors there. Like, okay, block is up. All of your attacks are blocked. When you block in TBC, it's kind of like, yeah, F you. I don't know. It was really satisfying. Holy light balls, Batman. I hate to say it, but I can totally see why the Paladin is like the poster boy for WoW. I mean, it's the same way that the Guardian is for Guild Wars 2. Let's be serious. The main mechanic of the Paladin is using seals. And no, not the ones that you find in the Arctic. You terrible person. You take those seals that the Paladin is using and then judge them against enemies. They use mana as your secondary resource, and honestly, it felt so damn good to play and fight enemies. It was so good. Oh my goodness. All I needed to do was act like Starbucks got my order wrong, and then I got to judge people. It was perfect. Honestly, it was really easy to understand, and it was fairly strong playing early on, which honestly made the Paladin a very big consideration for me. Later, Paladins can use the Retribution spec line, which it focuses on 2-handed weapons and basically melee DPS, or the Fedora wearer, however you wish to know it. Protection, that focuses on tanking with Holy FU energy, and literally a healing class of Holy Light. I will not tolerate the forces of evil and if you get that reference, I like you. As a Guild Wars 2 player, this was basically screaming Guardian to me, without a doubt. This is Guardian. As a comparable class, I mean, come on. Not only for their individual power, but then the supportive options through auras, through blessings, defensive cooldowns. This was straight up mirror to me, and it was actually a lot of fun. Truth be told, I really didn't even need to try the Hunter. Hunter is a Ranger in Guild Wars 2. Easily, without a doubt. I knew this, but I also mained Hunter when I played in Wrath of the Lich King, and basically every expansion after that. I remember the days here where we had to actually carry ammo to use our ranged auto attacks. It was so great. And then if your enemies got too close, you couldn't use your range attack, so you had to switch to your offhand weapons to be able to fight because of minimal distance. That was good torture. Knowing that at like level 10, hunters get their pets and it's basically GG from there. Once you fed it and you stopped it from dying, the pets there, and it's basically the rest of the game becomes so much easier. They're one of the easiest classes, so survivable. The leveling's really fun. And steamrolling, so to speak. I mean, I think it was BM. Beast Mastery is the way that you go, not bad manners. Hunter is pure DPS, and they don't really do too much outside of that. Having Beast Mastery for damage with their pet, Marksmanship for their mainly ranged damage, powerful range damage, and then Survival for ranged dots, which honestly was a fun one to play. I don't know, I don't think they had it. They don't have Black Arrow here, but they brought Black Arrow in for Wrath of the Lich King. And that was a lot of fun. As a Guild Wars 2 player, easily this was a Ranger, but only somewhat. As the Guild Wars 2 Ranger focuses mainly on the nature side of things, emphasis there. And I mean, one of their elite specializations is their Druid, so it kind of adds up, but the pure focus on ranged damage and using a pet, it was, to me, that's Ranger. And honestly, if you wanted to pick up the Hunter, it's a cakewalk. It's like picking up a bike, but the bike is also an electric bike. It's easy. This class was a doozy. Like, it took me a bit to figure out what the f was going on. So I thought I would like TBC Shaman because it uses elements, just like the Elementalist, what I main in Guild Wars 2. So I was like, bam, that should be an easy go-to. I found myself getting slapped around like a $3 hot dog at a bachelorette party. I stuck with it though. And was very much surprised how fun it could be. Mainly because the use of lightning bolts and shocks and then totems, which the totems are like placed little buff items so that you can put down and they do their effect. So think kind of like banners for warriors in Guild Wars 2. I mean, the three specs that they have are the enhancement, which is a melee DPS, elemental, which is range DPS, and restoration, which is a healer. And I remember playing a bit of Shaman in Battle for Azeroth, but I didn't end up sticking with it and eventually went back with my Hunter. But when I did play Elemental Shaman there, it was a lot of fun, just throwing lightning bolts at everyone and enjoying myself. As a Guild Wars 2 player, this made me think of Elementalists throughout, but the totems ended up being kind of foreign and not really having a good comparison, like a good place to be one-to-one. Maybe you could argue Ritualist or the Scourge for the Necromancers. Maybe that would be close with the Spirits and Shades, but honestly, the use of elements being 100%, that's Elementalist in my mind. Surprise! I really liked playing this one in TBC once I actually stopped dying. If you go to YouTube and you search any high-level PvP in World of Warcraft, at any expansion, it doesn't matter, you pick any, it is 100% going to have a rogue there. Rogues are the essential equivalent to that of a thief in Guild Wars 2, no question. Rogues are stealthy burst class that utilize a resource called energy, which powers their skills, much like initiative for the thief. These build up combo points when used on enemies, and it has greater effects for the more combo points that you use. The major difference, which I played rogue for a good chunk of Wrath of the Lich King, is honestly the use of stealth. For rogues, it's a button that you press before combat and you get a benefit, and you can use an ambush skill or you can use a stealth only skill to start out combat kind of unfairly. For thieves, it's using a skill mid-combat to get a temporary stealth to use one of your stealth attacks. Once a rogue was out of stealth in WoW, it's a big deal. I mean, it's a really big deal. Whereas in Guild Wars 2, it's kind of like, okay. He's out of stealth now. Regardless, both of these bastards are slippery and the bane of my existence in any form of PvP. Rogues in World of Warcraft have three distinct DPS specs. Subtlety, which is oriented around like bleeds and stealth and ambushing enemies. Assassination, which is about poisons, bleeds, damage over times, daggers, think daggers with this one. And of course, combat, which is the pinnacle for DPS for rogues in WoW, which is straight up attack damage. As a Guild Wars 2 player, this was 100% Thief, with some nuances, as I've mentioned, but it's a slippery slope for me because I actually really do like Rogue, and especially the aesthetic of being like a dual wielding melee attacker with one-handed swords that give extra attacks. It was sweet, man. It was really sweet. Druid. Basically the Swiss Army knife of World of Warcraft. I mean, think of it like this. Druids are so heavily focused on nature, and honestly, I was like, that could be pretty close to a ranger comparison, but that's about where it ends. Druids shapeshift in WoW, and they can literally fit any role. Tanking, you're a bear. Melee DPS, meow. Range DPS, become a chicken. Healer, you're a tree. And the Druid feels like that quintessential, I'll be whatever you want me to be hotshot with all sexual tension intended. And honestly, the first couple of levels, it still felt pretty fun to play. Now, I know the strength comes from when you start shapeshifting into your specific roles, but regardless, they fit into basically any kind of playstyle. So it's really, how do you want to play TBC as a game? As a Guild Wars 2 player, I would say it really doesn't fit any specific profession directly. I mean, it's closer to that of the Ranger, with the Ranger's focus on nature and the wild, but that's about where the similarities end. Personally, I contemplated playing this one for a bit, just because I thought about being a little kitty cat, but my decision ended up going elsewhere. This one you can rule out. Okay, so this is like the other major PvP class you saw all the time. Mage and Polymorph. God, I hate that spell. I hate Polymorph so, and they spam it. The Mage is your big D caster and is exactly what you would think it would be for that. They can only DPS, but they pick one of 3 specs, like you're at Professor Oak's choosing your first Pokemon to start and run with. They have Arcane, Fire, and Frost as their 3 specs, and each one of them play pretty differently. Frost is like the very best for leveling because it offers a whole bunch of defenses, slows enemies, it's a pain in the ass. You're gonna cast a shitload of Frost Bolts, it's just nothing but Frost Bolt spam. Fire is your glass cannon. Either I kill you, or I kill myself, or if we're lucky, we both die together. Arcane is weird because you like melt your mana to deal more damage and then you like suck it back in. I don't know. Arcane's always been weird to me, but regardless, the Mage can be a lot of fun if you like to see big numbers and being everyone's basic drinking bitch. Yes, they can spawn food and drinks for everyone to share, and you will certainly need to have that button on your bars because everyone's going to ask, especially the healers. As a Guild Wars 2 player, I give this one to the Elementalist, but only kind of sorta. It captures the element aspect very well, but it doesn't have like the elemental summons or the use of all the elements. I mean, it's close. It's pretty close tied that with the Shaman, but only kind of sorta. Straight up, this is the Necromancer. It just screams a slightly different version and color of Necromancer. So Warlocks are like demon summoners, and they afflict enemies with their curses, and they regenerate HP through like demonic sacrifice. Sounds pretty effing familiar if you ask me.
Suspicious.
So Warlocks get to summon a single demon pet that they use to fight enemies, but each demon does something kind of like unique, offering either protection, dealing damage, crowd controlling enemies. The Warlock really brings nothing but like big D energy to all 3 of its variations. Like, it's just like Mountain Dew when they got the different kind of versions of the Baja Blast flavors. I mean, Demonology focuses on your pet and improving. It's also allowing you to summon a big sweaty half-naked demon man. Affliction curses enemies with more dots. And Destruction straight up makes you a turret blasting everything in range with fire and shadow. As a Guild Wars 2, this is 100% Necromancer variation for Guild Wars 2. I mean, between the summons, the dots, the shadow damage, it all basically adds up to being the Necromancer for me. In the short time I did play, however, I will say I was actually really having a great time. It felt really smooth, and it felt really strong when you landed a bunch of dots on enemies and you just ran away like a little bitch. All right, the Priest was probably the toughest one for me to play and level. The Priest is the only class in the game that has 2 healing specs and only 1 damaging spec. This is like the Paladin's more passive, scheming brother. Think like Thor and Loki with this one. The Priest, especially early on, does not hardly have any offensive skills, and you can only really get more damage if you pour more of your points into shadow, but it takes so long leading up to that point. I mean, you don't get shadow form for, I don't know, it's probably like 20 levels. Like, it's a lot. Listen, I don't want to throw any shade, but man, it was tough. It was. The healing specs are Holy and Discipline. Holy is like the flat out healing for healing's sake, like straight up it's the biggest, juiciest heals that you're going to get. And then discipline seems to be more oriented around using protection, like the thing that you always carry in your wallet, but you never actually use. I mean, of course, shadow is going to be oriented around damage and dots, but getting to a point where you're capable of using it, well, it's a push, man. Like it took so long for me to even just get to like level 5. I was like, how do people do this? As a Guild Wars 2 player, the closest thing I can say to Priest is that of the Mesmer, but that's only just slightly. Giving the comparison of using like mind magic and especially leaning into the shadow damage, maybe that's where you can go with it, but Mesmer is all about like misdirection and illusions. And I've already said that there's really nothing quite like Mesmer's in all of MMOs. So Priest kind of fits its own unique bubble to a comparison of Guild Wars 2. I personally, I couldn't recommend the class. That's not me. It doesn't seem my flavor. It did not mesh with me, let me just say. So which class did I choose? Which class am I going to play in TBC as my main? Honestly, I decided that I would stick it out with my boy with the Shaman. Something about casting elemental spells at a distance and then blasting them with totems seems to, I don't know, it feels like it's the right move for me. Now, I'm going to be grinding this guy up to max level and seeing what shenanigans I can get into, mainly to see if I can get into groups as an Ellie Shaman. Not 100% on that though. I don't know really where they fall in the DPS charts. But hey, if all else fails, I can get that resto spec right at my back and I'll get invited to something. Healing Wave is, that was the big D. That's what you need. Mana Tide Totem. Honestly, I think this kind of pairs off of my feelings about Guild Wars 2 and the Elementalist, because once I figured out how to level the Shaman a little bit better, everything just kind of clicked. So I'm hopeful that this gave you a little bit of direction all through this. Now, next week, I plan on documenting every leveling mistake I've made. And I haven't even gotten in like 10 hours in this game. Like, spoiler warning, those 10 hours were fucking brutal. But I will say that I picked up some things and hopefully it'll help. So subscribe so you don't miss it. And drop your class of choice in the comment. I want to see what the Calf Dad community chose. If you missed my initial experience, you can click on this video here, which will show you kind of like, yeah, my sentiment of picking up TBC brand new. As always, stay caffeinated, folks.